in the dream, you opened your mouth to scream, and nothing came out. Sleep science has a quiet explanation. While you dream, your body settles into a deep stillness, and your voice is resting inside it. The part most people never learn. That silence isn't your body failing you. It's your body keeping you still and safe while you dream. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight we follow that stillness all the way down to the place deep in the brain where your voice is gently, temporarily set aside. Feel how your jaw has already loosened, your throat gone soft and unhurried. The muscles that would carry a cry are learning, right now, how to rest. So we start inside the dream itself, with a mouth that opens, a cry that forms, and the quiet reason it never quite reaches the air. Almost everyone has lived through a moment like this in sleep. Something is coming closer in the dream, and you open your mouth to call for help, and nothing comes. No sound, no scream, only the shape of a cry that never leaves you. Underneath everything we'll follow tonight sits one quiet question. Why does your voice fail you at the very moment the dream says you need it most? We won't rush toward the answer. We'll move gently, the way sleep itself moves, slowly, without effort. For now, simply notice that this silent scream is not yours alone. It has visited nearly every sleeping mind on Earth, and it has a reason. That reason is where we are going. If you have ever tried to scream in a dream and found only silence, you are in enormous company. Sleep researchers who survey large groups of people find that this exact experience, the mouth opening, the cry that will not come, is among the most widely shared events in all of human sleep. Across cultures, languages, and centuries, people describe it in almost identical words. The dream changes, the danger changes, but the frozen voice stays the same. It is so common that many sleep scientists treat it not as a disorder or a warning, but as an ordinary feature of the dreaming night. Something in the way we are built produces it, again and again, in almost everyone who sleeps and dreams. What makes this dream stay with us is how real it feels while it is happening. In the moment, the effort to scream is complete. You can feel your chest pushing, your throat straining, every part of you reaching for that sound. There is nothing half-hearted about it. The dream does not tell you the cry will fail. You discover it in the trying. And because the feeling is so total, the memory can linger into morning, sharper than most dreams. People often recall the silence itself as the loudest part. Tonight, as we explore why this happens, it may help to know that the vividness is not a sign anything is wrong. It is simply how deeply the dreaming brain commits to its own story. The silent scream has close cousins. Many people know the dream where they try to run and their legs move as if through deep water, or the dream where they swing to strike and the blow lands with no force at all. Screaming, running, fighting. The theme is the same. you reach for a strong, protective action, and your body answers far more faintly than your will demands. It can feel like moving through honey, or as if the body has fallen a beat behind the mind. These are not separate mysteries. They belong to one family of dream experiences. And as we will see, they share a single underlying cause rooted in the way the sleeping body is quietly arranged each night. A particular feeling rides along with these dreams, a kind of helplessness that can ache even after waking. You knew what to do. You tried to do it. And still the sound, the escape, the defense would not come. It is natural to carry a small unease from that, to wonder if it means something about you. So let us set that worry down gently, early. The helplessness in the dream is not a flaw in your courage or your will. It is the byproduct of a protective arrangement your body switches on every single night. Understanding that arrangement tends to soften the fear. What feels like weakness inside the dream is, in waking life, one of sleep's quiet acts of care. To understand the voiceless scream, it helps to be clear about what a nightmare actually is. A nightmare is not a random flicker of images. It is a dream, a full, story-like experience that turns intense and frightening, vivid enough that it often wakes us or stays with us into the day. Sleep scientists describe nightmares as emotionally charged dreams with a narrative you can usually recall, a sequence of events, a sense of stakes, a felt danger. They tend to arrive in the later part of the night, when dreaming is richest. So a nightmare is not a malfunction of sleep. It is ordinary dreaming, turned up in feeling and detail, remembered precisely because it moved us so deeply. Nightmares belong to a specific stage of sleep called REM, named for the rapid eye movements that flicker beneath closed lids. Across a night, we cycle through lighter and deeper stages several times, and REM periods grow longer toward morning. It is within REM that the most story-like, emotional, image-rich dreams unfold, including the frightening ones. This is why nightmares often come in the hours before waking, and why they feel so cinematic. When you dream that you are trying to scream and cannot, you are almost certainly inside a REM dream. Knowing the name of this stage matters, because REM is also where the answer to our question lives. The stage that gives us vivid dreams is the same stage that quietly holds the body still. One of the defining features of a nightmare is that you remember it. Unlike many gentle dreams that dissolve the instant we stir, a nightmare tends to survive the crossing into wakefulness. You open your eyes and the story is still there. The corridor, the figure, the cry that would not come. Sleep scientists connect this to REM sleep and to the emotional intensity of the dream itself. Strong feeling seems to press the experience more firmly into memory. This is why the silent scream can follow you all the way to the breakfast table. It is worth remembering, though, that being memorable is not the same as being harmful. The dream stayed with you because it moved you, not because it left anything broken behind. During REM sleep, the brain is far from quiet. In many ways, it is as active as it is when you are awake, and in certain regions even more so. Brain imaging studies show whole networks lighting up, areas that generate imagery, that handle memory, that produce emotion. This is why a dream can feel like a place rather than a thought, with depth and motion and weather. The sleeping brain is not idling. It is composing an entire world and placing you inside it. When you try to scream in that world, the effort feels real because, to the brain, the situation is real. Understanding how alive the REM brain is helps explain why the dream can grip us so completely, and why its silence lands so hard. There is a reason REM dreams carry such strong feeling. Deep in the brain sit structures involved in emotion. Among them, the amygdala, a small region closely tied to fear and alarm. During REM sleep, these emotional centers are notably active, while some of the regions that normally weigh and reason things through are quieter than in waking. The result is a mind rich in feeling and light on second guessing. A shadow becomes a threat without argument. A closed door becomes something to flee. This emotional tilt is part of why nightmares feel so insistent, and why the impulse to scream arrives so fast and so total. The dreaming brain feels first and questions later. And in a nightmare, what it feels most sharply is danger. REM dreams are intensely visual, and this too is written into the sleeping brain. The regions that build images from memory and imagination are strongly engaged, while the eyes flicker as if watching a scene unfold. What they track is not a movie on the eyelids, but the imagery the brain generates from within. This inner vividness is why a dream can hold a whole landscape, a room, a street, a face, in convincing detail. It is the stage set on which the nightmare plays. And when the danger appears and you open your mouth to scream, the scene feels solid enough to justify the fear. The visual richness of REM is one more reason the silent cry feels less like a dream and more like an event. Beyond images and feeling, the REM brain is a storyteller. It weaves the raw material of memory, emotion, and sensation into a sequence, a beginning that becomes a middle, that becomes a chase. This narrative pull is part of what separates a full dream from a passing image. You are not just seeing danger. You are inside a plot that seems to be going somewhere, with you at its center. In a nightmare, that plot bends toward threat, and your role becomes the one who acts, who runs, who fights, who calls out. The storytelling brain hands you a part to play, and the moment the script calls for a scream is exactly the moment we are trying to understand. Inside a REM dream, you still feel like you. Your sense of being a person, with intentions and reactions, carries over from waking life into the dream world. That is why the effort to scream feels like your effort. Your voice, your lungs, your will pushing outward. The dreaming mind borrows your everyday sense of agency and drops it into an impossible scene. This continuity is comforting to understand, because it explains why the failure feels so personal. It is not a stranger who cannot scream in the dream. It is unmistakably you. But the reason the sound will not come has nothing to do with the self doing the trying. It comes from a layer beneath the dream, watching over the body while the mind roams free. REM dreams can bend time and space in ways that feel seamless from the inside. A single dream may seem to last a long while, and places can shift without the seams showing. Yet within that flexible world, one thing stays consistent: the sense that your actions should work. You expect your legs to run and your voice to sound, because in waking life they always have. The dream honors most of your expectations, which makes the exceptions all the more startling. When the scream fails, it breaks a rule the dream otherwise keeps. That single broken rule is a clue, and by the end of the night, we will understand exactly why the voice, of all things, is the one that gives way beneath the danger. The stage we have been describing was only named in the middle of the last century, when researchers noticed sleepers' eyes darting beneath closed lids and found their brains buzzing with activity. They called it REM sleep, and realized it was the home of our most vivid dreaming. That discovery reshaped how we understand the night. Sleep was no longer a single flat state of rest, but a landscape with distinct territories, each doing different work. The frightening, story-rich dreams, the ones with the silent scream, were placed firmly within REM. This mattered, because once scientists could see when vivid dreaming happened, they could begin to study what else the body was doing at that same time. And what the body was doing turned out to be remarkable. Here, we should gently clear up a common confusion. The can't scream nightmare is sometimes mixed up with something called a night terror, but they are quite different events. A nightmare, as we have seen, is a REM dream, a frightening story you usually remember. A night terror is not that. It arises from deep, dreamless, non-REM sleep, earlier in the night, and it looks very different from the outside and from the inside. Someone in a night terror may sit up, cry out, or appear afraid, yet they are not experiencing a story at all. Knowing the difference matters tonight, because our silent scream lives entirely in the REM world of dreaming, not in the deep, storyless place where night terrors come from. A night terror belongs to a group of sleep events called parasomnias, and it emerges from the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, usually in the first hours of the night. The striking thing about a night terror is that the person almost never remembers it. They may appear intensely frightened, a sudden cry, a racing heart, but there is no remembered dream, no story to recall, often no memory of the event at all by morning. This is the near opposite of the nightmare, which is remembered precisely because it is a vivid REM story. Because a night terror rises from dreamless sleep, there is no dreamed scream failing inside it. Our mystery is a different one, set in a different stage, with a different cause entirely. Night terrors are most common in young children and usually fade with age. though they can occasionally appear in adults. They tend to happen during that deep, early night sleep. And because the sleeper is not truly dreaming a narrative, they often cannot be woken easily or comforted with words in the moment. It can look alarming to a parent watching, yet the child typically has no memory of it and comes to no harm. We mention all this only to set it aside cleanly. The experience we are following tonight, the mouth opening, the cry that will not come, is not a night terror. It is a REM dream, and it happens in a body that is, in one specific and telling way, being deliberately held still. So we have two very different nighttime experiences that are easy to blur together. One is the nightmare, a vivid, remembered REM dream, rich with story and feeling, home to the silent scream. The other is the night terror, a burst of fear rising from deep, dreamless non-REM sleep, rarely remembered, with no dream to fail inside it. Same darkness, different origins. Tonight our path stays entirely within the first, the dreaming, story-making REM world. That is where the voice goes quiet under threat, and that is where the reason lives. With that distinction settled, we can turn back toward the dream itself, and toward the quiet mechanism working beneath it while the story plays out overhead. While the REM brain is busy building worlds, the REM body is doing something that seems, at first, almost paradoxical. As the mind grows more active and the dreams more vivid, the body grows profoundly still. Beyond the flickering eyes and the quiet work of breathing and the heart, the large muscles of the arms, legs, and voice fall into a deep quiet. This is not ordinary relaxation. It is a distinct state that the sleeping body enters on purpose, night after night, timed precisely to the dreaming stage. The busier the dream, the stiller the body. That pairing, vivid mind, quiet body, is not a coincidence. It is the heart of tonight's answer, and we are now close enough to name what is actually happening. Sleep scientists have a name for this deep stillness: muscle atonia, a temporary, natural loss of tone in the voluntary muscles during REM sleep. For a stretch of the night, the body's movement is quietly switched off, even as the dreaming mind runs at full speed. And here, the question we opened begins to turn. We started by asking why the voice fails when the dream seems to need it most, as if something were going wrong. But if the whole body is being gently held still during every REM dream, then the silent scream may not be a failure at all. It may be one small, visible edge of a nightly act of protection. That quiet shift is where the rest of our path leads. This stilling reaches the very muscles we would use to speak and to cry out. The muscles of the chest, the throat, the jaw, and the mouth that shape a scream are among those held quiet during REM. So when the dreaming mind sends the command to shout, the usual machinery of the voice is not fully available to answer. The intention is complete. The pathway to sound is, for the moment, turned down. This is why the scream can feel so total in the trying and so absent in the result. You are, in a real sense, giving the order to a body that has been temporarily and deliberately set to still. And the reason it is set that way is one of sleep's most elegant safeguards. Why would the body hold itself so still, exactly when the mind is dreaming most vividly? The leading understanding is protection. In a REM dream, you may be running, fighting, or leaping, and if your body acted out every one of those motions, sleep would stop being safe. Atonia keeps the dreamed actions from becoming real ones. It lets the mind roam through chases and confrontations while the body stays safely at rest in the bed. The silent scream, then, is the same shield seen from the inside. The very system that stops you from thrashing also keeps the shout from leaving your lips. What feels like helplessness in the dream is, in waking terms, a quiet kindness keeping you safe. Picture what is happening at the moment of the dreamed scream. High in the dreaming brain, the decision to cry out is made, complete and clear. That command travels toward the muscles of the voice. But along the way, during REM, a region in the brainstem is actively holding those muscles quiet. The message arrives at a doorway that has been gently closed for the night. This is why the effort feels so real and the sound so absent. The wanting is fully switched on, while the doing is temporarily switched off. Nothing about you has failed. Two systems that usually work together are, for the length of the dream, deliberately kept apart. The dreaming mind free to imagine, the body free to rest. So this is the old, well-established understanding we have gathered so far. The nightmare is a vivid REM dream, rich with feeling and story. The dreaming brain is intensely alive, generating danger convincing enough to demand a scream. And beneath that dream, the body rests in atonia. The voice, like the limbs, held quietly still by design. The silent cry sits exactly where these two truths meet. A full command for sound, arriving at muscles kept gently at rest. It is a clear and reassuring picture. Yet a picture this clean invites a deeper question. Not just that the voice is stilled, but how, precisely, the sleeping brain arranges it, moment by moment. That finer machinery is where the next part of our night will lead. You've been with us for a while now, and your breathing has likely softened without you noticing. A soft subscribe helps another sleepless mind find this sanctuary too. Now, let's pause together, one sleepy soul at a time. Somewhere beneath the dreams we have been describing, your own body is doing this very thing right now. If sleep carries you into REM tonight, that same gentle stilling will move through your arms, your legs, the muscles that would shape a word, not to trap you, but to keep you safe while you wander. There is nothing for you to switch on, nothing to hold in place. It happens on its own, the way it has on every night of your life, whether or not you ever noticed it. The question we opened is quietly turning. We began by asking why the voice goes silent when the dream seems to need it. And already it looks less like something failing and more like something protecting. Let that gentler reading settle wherever it can find room. Feel, for a moment, how little effort this rest asks of you. Your breath is moving without instruction. Your weight is already given to the bed. The heaviness you may notice in your limbs is not weakness. It is the beginning of the same quiet that watches over every dreamer. Let one slow breath leave you, and let us drift on together toward the finer workings still waiting ahead. Every night, when you slip into REM sleep, the stage where the most vivid dreams unfold, your body does something quietly remarkable. The brain lowers the tone in nearly all of your voluntary muscles, the ones you would normally command to move. Scientists call this REM Atonia, a soft and near-complete stillness that settles over your arms, your legs, your jaw. It arrives gently, without your noticing, each time the dreaming begins. So when a dream turns frightening and you reach for your voice, the body it would move through is already resting, already set to a quieter setting than waking. This stillness is not a flaw or a failing. It is one of the most protective features your sleeping brain has. Think of everything a dream asks the body to do: running, fighting, calling out into the dark. If those signals reached your muscles fully, you would physically act out every scene. REM Atonia holds the body still so the dream can play safely, without you kicking, striking, or leaping from where you rest. The silence you meet in a nightmare is that same gentle mechanism keeping you safe. What feels like helplessness is underneath, your body being carefully, deliberately looked after through the night. The stillness is orchestrated from a small, ancient region deep in your brainstem, called the pons, while your dreaming mind spins its stories overhead. The pons works quietly below, sending steady signals that keep the body's muscles at rest. It is one of the oldest parts of the brain, and it tends this same quiet task in us as it does in the many other animals that share REM sleep. You do not have to arrange any of it. Each time REM begins, this small conductor lowers the volume of movement, and it will raise it again, just as smoothly, once the dream is done. The way the pons keeps you still is surprisingly precise. It triggers the release of two calming messengers, glycin and GABA, onto the motor neurons, the nerve cells that would normally carry a command out to your muscles. These messengers quiet those cells, easing them below the threshold where they would fire. So a movement can be fully imagined, fully intended, and still go no further than the nerve. The instruction arrives at a door that has been softly held shut for the night. Nothing is broken in this. It is chemistry doing exactly what it was arranged long ago to do. This quieting is nearly total, but not complete, and the exceptions matter. Two systems are deliberately left running. The muscles that move your breath continue their slow, faithful rhythm, so your chest rises and falls all through the deepest dreaming. and the small muscles behind your eyes stay active, drifting back and forth in the movement that gives REM. Rapid eye movement. Its name. Everything else settles. The body keeps only what it truly needs to carry you through the night, and lets the rest grow still. Even in the wildest dream, your breathing was never once asked to stop. Now consider what calling out actually requires. A single cry is not one muscle, but many, working in careful agreement. First, air is pushed up from the chest. Then the vocal folds in your larynx draw together and vibrate. And finally, the mouth, tongue, and jaw shape that moving air into a word. All of these are voluntary muscles, precisely the ones REM Atonia has softened for the night. So when the dream reaches for a scream, it reaches for a whole orchestra of movement that is, for now, resting. The command itself is whole and complete. The players it calls upon are simply asleep. The larynx sits at the center of this. It is the small, intricate gateway in your throat where voice is born. Its delicate muscles tensing and loosening to turn moving air into sound. In waking life, you tune it 1,000 times a day without a single thought. But in REM, those same fine muscles are held within the general stillness, slackened and quiet. The air may even be there, ready, yet the folds that would shape it into a shout are resting slack. This is why the voice in a dream can feel so near, right at your throat, and still make no sound at all. A real scream also asks something extra of your breathing. Quiet, automatic breath, the kind the brainstem protects all night, is gentle and even. But a shout needs a forceful push. The chest wall and the muscles between your ribs contracting hard to drive a strong column of air upward. That forceful, voluntary effort belongs to the same softened system as the rest of the body in REM. So the breath that keeps you alive continues, calm and unbroken, while the harder breath a scream would demand simply cannot gather. Your lungs are working through it all. They are just working peacefully, not fiercely. Here is the heart of what happens. In the dream, the intention is completely real. Your sleeping brain forms the command to scream and sends it outward exactly as it would while awake. The signal is genuine, fully shaped, fully meant. But partway along the path, at the motor neurons, the pons has quieted. That signal meets the soft threshold and travels no further. The message is sent. It simply is not delivered. The effort you feel is not imaginary. It truly happened, up in the brain. It only never reached the muscles that would have carried it out into the room. And so the question we carried into the dark begins to turn. You came wondering why your voice fails you when you try to cry out in a dream, as though something were going wrong. But this same stillness now looks less like a failure and more like care. The voice does not break. It is briefly, deliberately set down, along with the rest of the body, so the night can pass safely. What felt like being silenced was your own brainstem holding you gently still. the frightening quiet and the protective quiet. It turns out we're never two different things at all. This is why the effort can feel so vivid while nothing comes out. Inside the dream you strain. You gather everything. You feel your whole self pouring into the cry. And all of that is real activity in the brain. Sensation and intention fully alight. What is missing is only the body's answer. There is a gap between the vivid command above and the quiet muscles below. And the dreaming mind, feeling the effort but hearing no sound, weaves that gap into the story as a scream that will not come. The strain you remember was true. The silence only completed it. It can help to picture it plainly. During REM, your dreaming mind is fully awake in its own world, inventing, feeling, reaching, while your moving body waits quietly offline, like an instrument switched to standby for the night. The two are briefly, safely uncoupled. Your intentions run at full brightness. The muscles that would enact them rest in the dark. This is not something failing in you. It is a nightly, ordinary separation that every dreamer meets. In every corner of the world. The you that dreams and the you that moves are simply keeping different hours until the morning comes. Understanding this changes how the dream can feel. The stuck voice. The reaching with no sound. These are not signs of danger or of weakness. They are the ordinary signature of a brain doing exactly what it evolved to do while you sleep. Countless people met this same silent moment tonight, and every one of them was, in that instant, perfectly safe. There is nothing to fix and nothing to fight. The mechanism holding your voice still is the very same one keeping your rest whole. Knowing that, the frightening edge of the dream can soften into something almost tender. Notice how the body has settled while we've followed this. The breath slower now, moving on its own, the way it does, through every dream, needing nothing from you. There is nowhere to reach and nothing to hold. Let one long breath ease out, unhurried, and we'll drift on, gently, into the last of it. Sometimes the silence is not quite complete, and a small sound does escape. A faint whimper, a low moan, a murmured word half-formed. This happens when the atonia lightens for a moment, when the pons eases its hold just slightly and a little movement slips through. It is why someone sleeping nearby might hear you make a soft sound during a vivid dream. Far from a sign of struggle. It is simply the stillness loosening its grip by a single degree. The smallest fraction of voice finding its way out before the quiet gently, fully returns again. So even the sounds that do escape follow the same gentle rule. A moan, a mumble, a breath shaped almost into a word. Each is only the body's stillness thinning for an instant, never truly lifting. The full scream stays out of reach because the full body stays at rest, exactly as it should through the night. What the dream frames as a voice that failed is, from the outside, a sleeper lying safe and breathing slow. The mechanism is whole, working just as designed. And the quiet you meet in there is not abandonment. It is protection, keeping watch until morning. There's a reason a nightmare can feel so overwhelming, so impossible to reason your way out of. While you dream, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped hub deep in the brain that colors experience with fear and emotion, runs unusually active. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, the measured, reasoning part that in waking life would quietly note this isn't real, grows softer, less involved. So the feeling arrives at full strength, with little there to temper it. That's why a dream's fear doesn't feel like a passing thought. It feels vivid, close, and entirely convincing, even while you are safe in your bed. You can think of it as a gentle imbalance that tips toward feeling. In ordinary waking hours, emotion and reason work in quiet conversation. One rise, the other steadies it. But REM sleep softens the steadying voice and lets emotion lead. Brain imaging shows the emotional centers glowing warmly during dreams, while the regions that judge and check stay dim and low. This is why a dream's fear feels so unchecked. So total. Nothing inside the dream is holding up a hand to slow it down. Understanding that doesn't make the fear foolish. It simply shows you the fear was never the whole truth of the night. This also helps explain why the dreaming self so often feels powerless. During REM sleep, your body rests in a deep, protective stillness. The muscles that would carry action are set gently offline. So when a dream reaches for a response, to run, to push back, to call out, there is no body waiting to answer. The impulse forms and finds nowhere to go. Without movement to complete it, the story cannot resolve. It lingers in the same suspended moment, and that suspension is what you feel as helplessness. The powerlessness isn't a weakness in you. It's a dream meeting a body that is, for now, completely at rest. A waking mind resolves fear through doing. You leave the room. You speak the words. You take a breath, and the moment passes. A dreaming mind is quietly denied that exit. With action held back, the story has no way to move forward. So it loops, returning again and again to the same threat it cannot step away from. That looping is what gives nightmares their trapped, airless quality. It isn't that something has gone wrong with the dream. It's that a story built for resolution has been paused mid-sentence, waiting for a body that is kindly, deliberately, keeping still until the morning comes. So a quieter question begins to surface. Not what stops the cry, but what all of this might quietly be for. One leading idea is that dreams, even frightening ones, are a kind of overnight emotional processing. Through the night, the brain may revisit the day's harder feelings in a softened, low-stress setting, slowly loosening their sharp edges so they weigh a little less by morning. In this view, a nightmare isn't the mind malfunctioning. It's the mind at work, turning something raw over in the dark, diffusing its charge, so that what frightened you in sleep holds a little less power once you wake. Another leading idea sits beside it, offered by the researcher Antti Revonsuo. He proposed that dreaming may be a kind of rehearsal, a safe inner space where the mind practices meeting danger, so it feels better prepared for waking life. In this threat simulation view, the fear in a nightmare carries a quiet usefulness. It lets you face something frightening while your body stays entirely secure. Neither of these ideas is a settled certainty. Both are careful models researchers are still weighing side by side. But each points the same gentle direction: that a difficult dream may be less an accident than an old, protective habit of the sleeping mind. Nightmares don't visit everyone evenly, and the pattern itself is telling. They come more often during stretches of stress, when the mind carries more than it can settle by day. Anxiety can raise their frequency, and for those living with trauma, particularly post-traumatic stress, nightmares can return again and again, echoing what the waking mind is still working to hold. This isn't a sign of weakness in a person. It's the same overnight processing, simply asked to carry a heavier load. The dreaming brain keeps reaching for the difficult material because part of it is still trying, patiently, to make the weight of it bearable. Children know nightmares especially well, and there's a tender reason why. The systems that shape and steady our dreams are still maturing in a young brain, so a child's dreaming can swing more vividly, with fewer breaks to soften a frightening turn. It's part of why bad dreams are so common in the early years, and why they usually ease as a child grows. If this was you once, long ago, you can meet that younger self with a little kindness now. The fear was never a fault. It was simply a growing mind, learning across many quiet nights how to hold its own dreams. We've been sitting with a heavy feeling, that trapped, powerless moment when a dream won't let you move or make a sound. Notice that here, now, none of it holds you. Your body is free to shift. Your breath is moving on its own, easy and unforced, in the safe stillness of this room. The helplessness lived only inside the dream. It was never the shape of you. Let one slow breath arrive, and let it leave. And as it goes, we turn gently toward the kindest part of all of this. How ordinary, and how harmless these frightening nights truly are. Here is the reassurance worth holding on to tonight. Nightmares are remarkably common. Nearly everyone meets them, across every age and every kind of life. An occasional frightening dream is not a sign that something is wrong with you, or with your sleep. For most people, these dreams pass through and leave no mark on the night's rest, forgotten within minutes of waking. They are a normal feature of a healthy, dreaming brain, not a symptom to fear or fix. Knowing that, you can let the next one be smaller. Not a warning, not a failure, just the ordinary weather of a mind moving through its nightly work. And the most reassuring truth is the one we started inside. That helpless feeling, the cry that won't come, the limbs that won't move. is not danger. It's the quiet signature of a body doing exactly what it should, holding still, holding you safe, while the dream runs its course. The very stillness that felt like a trap is the same stillness that guards your rest. So the voiceless moment was never something failing in you. It was care, wearing an unfamiliar face. Tonight, if the silence comes, you can meet it knowing it was only ever keeping you safe. A nightmare can feel like something going wrong, yet researchers increasingly see it as the sleeping mind quietly at work. During REM, the brain revisits what frightened or unsettled you, turning it over in a place where nothing real can reach you. Emotional memories are sorted, softened, and filed away while the body rests in stillness. The fear you feel is real, but it is being handled, not inflicted. Your mind is doing patient maintenance on the day's harder moments, and the quietness of your body is simply the room in which that gentle work is allowed to happen. Much of a nightmare's purpose seems to be rehearsal at a safe distance. The dreaming brain builds a small model of a threat, lets you meet it, and studies how you respond, all without a single real consequence. Scientists call this a kind of overnight emotional practice. Whatever alarmed you loses a little of its edge each time the mind approaches it in the dark. The scene may feel vivid, but it is a draft, not an event. And while that rehearsal plays out, your body stays wrapped in a stillness that keeps the practice purely internal. Fear in a dream and fear while awake are not stored in quite the same way. Studies of REM sleep suggest the brain can revisit a distressing memory while turning down some of the stress chemistry that first accompanied it. Over several nights, the memory can stay while the sharp sting slowly loosens. This is thought to be one reason we often wake feeling steadier about something that troubled us before sleep. The frightening images are not there to punish you. They are the visible surface of a mind carefully separating an event from the ache it once carried. It helps to remember that a nightmare is your own mind speaking to you in symbols, not an outside force arriving. The characters, the chase, the locked door, the voice that will not come. These are assembled from your memories and worries, rearranged into a story. Nothing in that story has power you did not lend it. Understanding this changes how the fear sits. What felt like being trapped becomes, on reflection, being shown. And the body held so still through all of it is not a victim of the dream, but the quiet keeper of its safety. The stillness that holds you during a nightmare is the same stillness that holds you during the sweetest dream. Your body does not know the difference in tone, and it does not need to. REM Atonia is not a response to fear. It is the steady background condition of the whole stage. Whether the dream is tender or troubling, the muscles rest. The breath keeps its rhythm, and you remain safely anchored to the bed, knowing that the calm underneath never wavers, even when the story above turns dark, can make the darker stories far less frightening to meet. Nightmares are also remarkably common, and that alone can be a comfort. Surveys find that most adults have them from time to time, and nearly everyone did as a child. They tend to cluster in the later hours of the night, when REM periods grow longer and richer. Being visited by one does not mean something is wrong with you. It usually means your mind found a spare, protected hour to process something it had been carrying. You are in enormous, quiet company. Across the world tonight, countless minds are doing this same soft, unseen work. Here is where the helpless feeling turns, gently, into something else. The very paralysis that stops your dream scream is what stops your dream body from doing anything harmful. If your muscles answered the nightmare, you might leap from the bed, strike out, or run into a wall while still asleep. The Atonia holds all of that safely offline. So the silence is not the dream defeating you. It is a single protective mechanism doing two things at once: muting the voice and stilling the limbs, keeping you exactly where you are while the fear passes through and moves on. Consider what the body is actually preventing. In a nightmare, you might dream of sprinting, fighting, or hurling yourself away from danger. Every one of those impulses is generated in the brain and sent toward the muscles, just as in waking life. Atonia intercepts them at the base of the brainstem before they can reach your legs and arms. What would have been a violent thrash becomes, in the real room, the softest stillness. The powerlessness you feel inside the dream is the outward shape of a safeguard, quietly refusing to let a frightening story spill into the waking world. We actually know what happens when this safeguard fails, and it underlines how protective it usually is. In a rare condition studied in sleep laboratories, the muscle stilling switch does not fully engage, and people begin to physically act out their dreams. They may kick, sit up, or call out while still asleep. Researchers describe it precisely as the loss of normal REM Atonia. For almost everyone, that switch works flawlessly every single night. So the stillness you sometimes resent in a nightmare is the ordinary, reliable gift that keeps your sleeping body peacefully still and unharmed. There is a deep logic in muting the voice specifically. Of all the things a sleeping body might do, crying out would be among the most disruptive, waking you, waking others, flooding the moment with alarm. By holding the speech and breathing for speech muscles quiet, the brain lets the emotional processing continue without tearing you out of it too soon. The unfinished scream is, in a sense, the mind protecting its own work. It keeps the fear contained inside the dream long enough to be handled there, rather than spilling into a startled, sleepless night that would resolve nothing. This reframing tends to ease the fear on its own. Many people find that simply knowing why the scream will not come makes the experience far less distressing when it happens. The moment loses its sense of personal failure. You are no longer a body that could not perform. You are a body that was being kept still on purpose. Sleep researchers note that understanding a frightening sleep experience often reduces its grip, because so much of the distress comes from not knowing. The explanation itself becomes a kind of quiet reassurance you can carry into the next night. It can help to think of the paralysis as trust rather than restraint. Every night, without your asking, A part of your brain takes over the job of keeping you safe while you are at your most vulnerable and unaware. It decides when to hold the muscles still and when to release them. You do not have to supervise any of it. That handing over of control is not something done to you. It is something done for you, faithfully, in the dark. The stillness is the physical form of being cared for by your own nervous system. And the fear, however loud, is always temporary. A nightmare unfolds inside a REM period that will end on its own, usually within minutes. As the sleep cycle turns, the brain drifts back toward quieter stages. The vivid story dissolves, and the muscle stillness gently lifts. Nothing about the frightening scene is designed to last. It is a passing weather system moving across a night that stays fundamentally calm underneath. Knowing there is a natural end already built in, that the dream cannot hold you past its own short window, softens the urgency of wanting to escape it. From this steadier ground, something hopeful becomes possible. Some people learn to notice, while still inside the dream, that they are dreaming. This is called lucid dreaming, and studies using sleep laboratories have confirmed it is real by having dreamers signal with prearranged eye movements. The moment you recognize the dream for what it is, the fear tends to soften, because you know the scene has no power to harm you. The scream may still make no sound, but now the silence feels less like a trap and more like a reminder that you are safely asleep. Lucidity often begins with small, familiar cues. Dreamers who practice noticing oddities, a room that keeps changing, a voice that will not come, sometimes use those very glitches as gentle signals that they are dreaming. The voiceless scream, once a source of helplessness, can quietly become one of these doorways. The same detail that frightened you can become the thing that tells you where you are. You do not need to fight the dream to change your relationship with it. Sometimes simply recognizing it, from within its own stillness, is enough to loosen its hold. Even short of full lucidity, people find that a calmer inner stance changes the whole texture of a nightmare. When the fear is met with curiosity instead of resistance, the dream often grows less menacing, sometimes drifting toward neutral or even peaceful scenes. The mind seems to respond to the tone you bring, even in sleep. This is not about controlling the dream by force. It is about no longer bracing against it. And a body that is not bracing rests more deeply, letting the frightening story pass over the calm surface without disturbing the water beneath. For dreams that return again and again, there is a gentle, well-studied approach worth knowing about. It is called imagery rehearsal therapy, and it works entirely while you are awake. A person recalls a recurring nightmare, then imagines a new, less frightening ending for it, rehearsing that softer version calmly during the day. Over time, the dreaming mind often adopts the revised story. Researchers have found it can meaningfully reduce how often distressing dreams recur. It asks nothing of you at night. The work is done in daylight. Quietly rewriting a script, the sleeping mind then follows on its own. What is striking about that approach is how gentle its logic is. It does not try to suppress the dream or force it away. It simply offers the mind a kinder alternative and lets it choose. The recurring nightmare is treated not as an enemy to defeat, but as a story open to revision. This mirrors everything the night is already doing, taking difficult material and reworking it towards something more bearable. You are simply lending a hand to a process that was always yours. None of it requires struggle, only a soft, repeated act of imagining things ending better. It is worth naming, just briefly, a close relative of all this. Sometimes the REM stillness lingers a moment past waking, and you find yourself awake but unable to move for a few seconds. This is sleep paralysis, and it is the very same muscle stillness you have been learning about, simply experienced with the mind switched on. It passes quickly and harms nothing. Recognizing it as the ordinary paralysis of dreaming, caught briefly in the light, takes away most of its strangeness. It is the same faithful safeguard, still holding a heartbeat longer than usual. As a rule, nightmares soften with time and steadier conditions. They tend to become less frequent when sleep grows more regular, when the days carry a little less stress, and when the nervous system has room to settle. There is rarely anything to fix, only conditions to ease. A calmer bedtime, a consistent rhythm, an unwound mind. These quietly change what the night brings. The frightening dreams are often just the surface reading of a system under strain. And as the strain lifts, the surface grows calmer too. Kindness toward your waking hours tends to reach your sleeping ones. Time itself is one of the gentlest remedies. Most frightening dreams, even recurring ones, fade on their own as whatever fed them loses its charge. The mind finishes its processing and moves on, the way a wound quietly closes without your attention. What feels overwhelming in a run of hard nights often simply thins out and disappears. You do not always have to do something about a nightmare. Sometimes the wisest response is patience, trusting that the same mind that raised the fear is already, in its own time, laying it back down to rest. And nothing about having nightmares means your sleep is failing you. The frightening dreams live inside REM, the same stage that steadies your mood, consolidates your memories, and restores your emotional balance. To dream vividly, even darkly, is a sign that this rich, healing stage is doing its work. You are not sleeping badly because you dreamed something frightening. You are sleeping fully. The nightmare is one small, occasional feature of a process that is, on the whole, deeply on your side, working through the night to return you to yourself a little more whole each morning. So here is what the night has been quietly showing, piece by piece. The scream that will not come is not your body failing you in a moment of need. It is your body keeping you still and safe while your mind works its way through fear. The silence and the stillness are one act of care. Not a helplessness done to you, but a protection carried out for you. What looked like powerlessness was, the whole time, the shape of being held. The muted voice was never the dream winning. It was you, being kept whole, in the dark. Seen this way, the helplessness dissolves into something almost tender. Every element that once frightened you turns out to have a protective purpose. The paralysis that guards your limbs, the mutedness that guards your rest, the short window that guarantees an end. There is no part of the experience left over that is simply cruel. Each piece is quietly doing its work, running without your effort or permission. Every single night. You were never abandoned inside the dream. Think of a lighthouse turning steadily through a fog it cannot clear. Faithful, all the same. Your sleeping body kept that same patient watch until the fear had passed. And you can let that knowledge settle now, the way a held breath finally releases. There is nothing you need to do to be kept safe in your sleep. The mechanism that mutes the scream does not wait for your courage or your understanding. It simply works, faithfully, whether you notice it or not. You can rest tonight knowing that even in your most frightening dreams, something steady is holding you still and unharmed. The voice that would not come was never your weakness. It was the sound of being protected, in a place where you never had to protect yourself. Notice how that keeping safe asks nothing of you at all. The stillness that guards your sleeping body runs on its own, the way breath keeps its rhythm without a single decision from you. Something has been holding you whole this entire time, and you never had to lift a finger for it. Let that settle where the tightness usually lives. There is nothing left to brace against, no fear to outrun, no scream you need to summon. You are allowed to simply be held. What the night has been circling is close now, and it was always this gentle. By now the silence of that dream scream has a name. When you open your mouth in a nightmare and nothing comes, it is not weakness. It is your body keeping a promise it made hours ago. When sleep first arrived, the muscles that carry your voice were set gently down, like tools laid aside for the night. What felt like failure was only rest, doing exactly what it came to do. A dream is not something happening to you. It is your mind quietly sorting the day, folding memory into meaning while you rest. The images that loom are only the mind's raw material, shuffled loose from their edges. Even the chase, even the falling, even the scream that will not come. All of it is the night working, turning the noise of your waking hours into something softer, something you can finally set down. Your body goes still in the deepest sleep for a reason. The stillness is not a trap. It is a kind of safekeeping. If every dream reached your muscles, you would rise and run and act out each passing scene. So the body holds you gently in place, still as a lake at midnight, while the mind wanders wherever it needs to go. You are kept, not caught. The helplessness you feel in a nightmare belongs only to the dream. It cannot follow you across the border of waking. The moment your eyes open, the voice returns. The limbs answer. The whole soft machinery of you comes back online. What felt endless in the dark lasts only seconds, and then it is gone, the way mist lifts from a field when the light arrives. You were never truly powerless. You were only asleep. Every night of your life, waking has come. Every single one. However long the dream, however deep the dark, morning has always found you again. Your body knows this even when the dreaming mind forgets. Beneath the story, it tells itself. There is a steadier truth. The stillness lifts. The paralysis fades. The day returns without fail. You do not have to hold on. You only have to let the night carry you through. Consider how much your body does for you without asking. It slows your breath, softens your muscles, quiets your voice, all so the dream can pass through without disturbing your rest. The silence you meet when you try to scream is not a wall, but a hand smoothing the sheets. It is the body saying, "Stay. Nothing here needs your answer." Let the dream move through the room while you settle deeper into the bed beneath it. The scream that stays trapped in the chest is one of the oldest human dreams. People have described it for as long as they have written down their nights. Across every language, the same quiet moment, the open mouth, the missing sound. You are not alone in that hush. Millions have stood where you stood in the dark, mouth open, and every one of them woke and spoke and went on living in the morning. In the dream, your voice does not disappear. It is only resting, the same way your legs rest, the same way your hands lie open and unmoving on the bed. Everything that would carry you into action has been softly unplugged for the night. And so the scream has nowhere to travel. It stays inside, warm and unspent, waiting for a morning when it will not be needed at all. There is a gentleness hidden inside the paralysis of sleep. The body does not lock you down out of cruelty. It holds you the way a hand cups a candle flame against the wind. Close, still, protective. Nothing in the dream can spill out and harm the sleeping world, and nothing in the sleeping world needs to reach in. You rest inside that small, quiet shelter until it is time to wake. When the mind runs high in a dream, racing, reaching, calling out, the body stays perfectly quiet beneath it. This is the strange grace of sleep, the storm above, the calm below. The part of you that feels everything is awake, but the part that would act is at rest. And so you are spared. Whatever the dream asks of you, your still body answers softly, on your behalf. Not tonight. Not now. The alarm you feel in a nightmare is real, but it is only a signal, not a sentence. It rises like a wave. Like a wave. It falls. The brain that raised it will lower it again as sleep deepens or as morning nears. You do not have to fight the feeling or answer it. You can let it move through you like weather through a valley. Arriving, passing, gone. Notice how the fear of the dream never leaves a mark on the morning. You wake, and your heart slows. And within moments, the whole thing loosens its grip. The body was built to let it go. Nothing from the nightmare is carried forward but the faint memory of having dreamed. Even that softens by breakfast. The night keeps almost nothing. It hands you back to the day clean and whole. The voice you could not find in the dream was never lost. It has been with you all along, resting in the quiet of your throat, waiting patiently for waking. You do not have to reach for it now. You do not have to prove it still works. It will be there in the morning, the same as always, ready for the first soft word you choose to speak into the light. Think of the dream as a room you pass through, not a place you live. Its walls are made of memory and shadow, and they hold no weight in the waking world. You can walk through the darkened rooms of the night, knowing none of their doors lock behind you. Every corridor of sleep leads, in the end, to the same soft opening: your own bed, your own breath, the morning waiting quietly outside. There is such tenderness in the way sleep protects you. It dims the light slowly. It loosens your hold on the day one finger at a time. It stills your voice so that no dream can pull you awake before your body is ready. All of it is care, quiet and constant, arranged so that you can rest completely. You are not being held down. You are being held. The silence at the center of the dream is not empty. It is full of rest, full of repair, full of the mind quietly setting the day in order. What feels like the absence of your voice is really the presence of something deeper, a body given over completely to healing. In that hush, more is happening for you than any word could ever do. Let the silence be enough. Slowly, the understanding settles in. The scream that would not come was never a sign that something was wrong. It was a sign that something was right, that your body had done its work, had crossed the threshold into the deep, restful place where dreams are allowed to run free and harmless. You were exactly where you needed to be. Held still, kept safe, dreaming, and never once in reach of harm. The helplessness has begun to loosen now. You can feel it releasing, the way a clenched hand slowly opens in warm water. There was never anything you had to do, no sound you had to make, nothing you had to escape. The dream asked for a scream, and the kindest answer was silence. You gave it without knowing. And now you can give yourself the same gift: quiet, stillness, rest. How much of life is like this? A fear that feels enormous in the moment and vanishes the instant we wake to see it clearly. The dream teaches gently what the day forgets: that most of what troubles us cannot touch us. That stillness is often the safest place. That the morning always comes. You have practiced this 1,000 nights. Your body already knows the way through. Let the last of the worry drift away. The nightmare, if it comes tonight, is only a passing weather in the wide sky of your sleep. It cannot keep you. It cannot harm you. It will rise and break apart like clouds thinning at dawn. And underneath it, steady and unbothered, your breath will keep its slow rhythm, carrying you onward toward the certain, gentle shore of morning. The body carries a deep trust into every night, a trust older than words. It lets go of the day. It surrenders the voice. It grows still and open and unguarded, because some quiet part of it knows that waking will come, as it always has. You can borrow that trust now. You can rest inside it. The same certainty that has carried you through every dark is carrying you still. Soon there will be no scream to search for, no voice to test, no dream loud enough to reach you. There will only be the slow, warm settling of a body letting go. Your jaw softens. Your shoulders lower. The words you never needed to say dissolve unspoken into the dark. And in their place, a stillness so complete that even the dreams, when they come, will move through you like quiet water. Everything is loosening now. The tension that once lived in the reaching, the calling, the straining to be heard, all of it is draining away like the last light leaving the sky. You have nothing left to hold, nothing to guard against. The night has taken the weight from your voice and the effort from your limbs, and asked for nothing in return but that you rest. So rest. You are allowed. Let this be the last thought before sleep. The dark is not against you. It never was. The same quiet that rests your voice runs out through the whole sleeping world. Gentle, patient, endlessly kind. You can lay down the last of your watchfulness now. There is nothing here to escape from, nothing to outrun, nothing to cry out against. Let the night fold gently around you, the way dusk settles over a field, and be at ease. The scream you could not find was never needed. Nothing in the dark was ever coming for you. There was nothing to warn, nothing to wake, no one to call. You were held still, not because you were trapped, but because you were safe. So safe that even your voice could rest. Let it rest now. You are kept. You are quiet. You are, and have always been, entirely out of harm's reach. 100 facts ago, the silence of that dream scream felt like failure, a voice that would not answer when you needed it most. Now it has a shape. We followed the Atonia of REM sleep as it gently muted the muscles of speech, laying your voice down for the night. We watched the amygdala run high with feeling while the body stayed quietly offline, unable to act on a single alarm. What began as helplessness became something closer to safekeeping. The silence was never abandonment. It was protection. So this is what the dream was hiding. Your voice never failed. Deep in the brainstem, sleep set it down with every muscle that might have moved. You could not scream because you were being kept still and kept safe. Perhaps this quiet hour softened the helplessness the night sometimes brings, and gave the silence a gentler name. If it did, A soft like, a subscribe, or a share carries this same stillness to another restless soul lying awake in the dark, waiting to feel safe. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, without any effort from you, the muscles that carry your voice are already learning to rest. Your jaw, your throat, your open hands, all growing soft, all going quiet, the way they do at the edge of every dream. You do not have to hold them. You do not have to keep them ready. Let your whole body dissolve into that stillness. The same stillness the brainstem offers you each night. Not to trap you, but to keep you. Nothing in the dark is asking for your voice. Let it rest. You can let these thoughts settle now, like a voice laid down at the end of a long day, with nothing left it needs to say. Let your body grow heavy and still, held the way sleep has always held you. Sleep carries you where you are kept safe without having to make a sound. The Psychology for Sleep playlist has spent many hours in this quiet territory where mind and body meet in the dark. The next hour follows a question this one left open. What is your still, dreaming brain actually doing while it holds you so gently in place? That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. Rest well, gentle soul. Nothing in the dark was ever coming for you. Gentle facts for restless minds. Sleep well. Good night.